Join us on Patreon and become part of our journey to uncover history's untold stories. Your support helps us create in-depth content, bring hidden narratives to life, and keep history alive for everyone.
In the cold shadow of the early Cold War, when paranoia dripped like frost from every corridor of power, the United States government embarked on one of the most disturbing and secretive undertakings in modern history. The air of the 1950s was thick with fear, fear of communism, fear of Soviet advancement, and fear of the unknown. But it was not only foreign enemies that haunted Washington. It was the suspicion that the human mind itself could be turned into a weapon. Somewhere in the echoing halls of the Central Intelligence Agency, a terrible idea took root. If America could learn to control thought, memory, and emotion, no enemy could ever win. And so, the project that would later be known to the world as MKUltra was born, an experiment in breaking and rebuilding the human mind, a program cloaked in patriotic necessity, but reeking of moral rot. It began with whispers about Soviet and Chinese brainwashing techniques during the Korean War. American prisoners of war had returned with altered stories, new loyalties, or empty eyes, and the CIA feared a terrible gap in its own arsenal. The answer, they believed, lay in science, specifically in the deep, invasive exploration of the mind's most hidden corridors. Under the leadership of CIA chemist Sidney Gottlieb, MKUltra unfolded like a grim tapestry woven in secrecy. Funded through hidden channels and protected by layers of classified authority, the program reached into hospitals, universities, and prisons across the United States and beyond. Scientists, often unaware they were working for the CIA, were commissioned to test a wide variety of techniques: hypnosis, sensory deprivation, electroconvulsive therapy, and most infamously, the use of LSD and other hallucinogens. The victims were rarely volunteers in any meaningful sense. Some were mental patients, misled into believing they were receiving treatment. Others were prisoners, stripped of agency, and used as test subjects under the promise of leniency or better conditions. And then there were ordinary civilians, lured into strange research studies or dosed without their knowledge in bars, hospitals, and even their own homes. In one case, CIA operatives established a safe house in San Francisco where prostitutes were paid to lure men, who would then be secretly drugged so the agency could observe the effects of LSD in a controlled yet covert environment. The program was as lawless as it was ambitious, a violation of medical ethics on a scale previously unimaginable in the United States. LSD was the crown jewel of MKUltra's arsenal. Discovered in Switzerland in 1938 and later recognized for its intense psychological effects, the drug fascinated Gottlieb, who saw in it the possibility of dismantling a human mind entirely and perhaps rebuilding it to specification. Victims were given doses far beyond what was considered safe. Some endured hours or days of terrifying hallucinations. Others emerged disoriented, their memories fractured. There were reports of individuals never regaining their sanity, locked forever in a haze of drug-induced psychosis. For the CIA, such collateral damage was acceptable, for this was war of a different kind, an invisible battlefield inside the mind. The program's reach was international. In Canada, the Allen Memorial Institute in Montreal became a site of particularly cruel experiments under psychiatrist Donald Ewan Cameron, whose work was covertly funded through CIA front organizations. Cameron's methods were a grim combination of psychic driving and depatterning, techniques designed to erase a subject's personality entirely, often through massive doses of electroshock, extended drug-induced comas, and constant repetition of recorded messages. His patients, many seeking help for anxiety or depression, instead found themselves broken, their identities reduced to fragments. Some forgot how to speak, walk, or even recognize their families. In these cold rooms, the boundaries between healing and harm dissolved entirely. Within the United States, secrecy was absolute. Funds were disguised within the CIA's budget, and knowledge of the project was restricted to only a few high-ranking officials. Even President Eisenhower may have been unaware of the full scope of what his intelligence agency was doing. This secrecy was not only to shield the program from foreign eyes, but also from the outrage that would surely erupt if the American public knew their government was using medical torture on its own citizens. Scientists who participated were often told only fragments of the truth, and those who knew more maintained silence under threat of losing funding, career, or worse. The dark underbelly of MKUltra was not revealed until the mid-1970s, after the Watergate scandal had already frayed the public's trust in government. In 1973, as congressional investigations loomed, CIA Director Richard Helms ordered most MKUltra documents destroyed, effectively erasing the paper trail. What remained was only a fraction of the original files, enough to paint a picture of the horror but never the full mural. The survivors' testimonies, scattered, contested, often fragmented by trauma, became the primary record of what truly happened. The Church Committee hearings of 1975 brought MKUltra into the public eye, though many details remained hidden. Americans learned that their government had sanctioned experiments without consent, used citizens as guinea pigs, and played recklessly with minds in the name of national security. Public outrage was sharp, but concrete justice for victims was elusive. The CIA claimed the program had ended in 1973, though some researchers and journalists have argued that its methods simply evolved and continued under different names. The victims, many permanently damaged, often received no apology, let alone compensation. Perhaps the most chilling aspect of MKUltra was not its scale or its secrecy, but the cold logic that justified it. To its architects, the mine was merely another frontier of warfare, no different from the skies or the seas. In the moral vacuum of Cold War competition, ethics were luxuries the United States could not afford. Yet the human cost, lives derailed, sanity destroyed, trust shattered, cannot be measured in any ledger of national security. What remains today is a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked power and the fragility of the rights we take for granted. MKUltra is often remembered as a bizarre footnote of the Cold War. Its lurid stories of LSD-spiked drinks and mind control plots bordering on the surreal. But beneath the sensationalism lies a far more sobering truth, that in the name of protection, the United States government inflicted harm upon its own people in ways that mirrored the very totalitarian regimes it sought to defeat. History's judgment on MKUltra is clear. It stands as one of the darkest chapters in the history of American intelligence, a reminder that the greatest threats to liberty may sometimes come from within.